Hello everybody, this video is entitled "The Santa Rally Simply Got Delayed." I believe this is a delay we're having in the Santa Rally. Happy Christmas Eve to everybody. I guess I'll say Merry Christmas tomorrow. For now, Happy Christmas Eve. Of course, late afternoon in the USA today, I want to talk about the things that did not work this year. But before I go to some other things, some of the top growth stocks that I cover on the channel that haven't done very well this year, I need to acknowledge the epic green candle of Tesla. I mean, Tesla saved so many portfolios this year. It certainly saved mine. My portfolio actually looks like not much has changed thanks to Tesla, who has given us the most epic rally the past 4 months. So very thankful for Tesla. It's not Thanksgiving, but very thankful for Tesla. Definitely deserves a Tesla Christmas ornament at the end of the year. Tesla was not delayed. Tesla is rallying finally. The point, of course, when I talk about Tesla is that you need to realize how many despairs, especially in Christmas. Think about, do you remember Christmas 2023 for Tesla? Because I really remember. That was a period of despair. So I'm going to talk about MSTR in a second. Keep in mind that MSTR investors right now are going through the same thing that Tesla investors were going through in 2023. And Tesla investors, I was a Tesla investor in 2023. I remember the steals that we had buying Tesla. Today, this year, this Christmas looks very, very different for Tesla. But stocks, assets, disruptive assets, don't go up at the same time. It's Tesla's time to shine. It is not HIMS. It is not MSTR's time to shine. And so let's talk about, of course, the elephant in the room. MSTR. MSTR, of course, it's been a catastrophe this year. There's no other way to put it. The market is just giving no credit to this company. But of course, that's seen through the compression of MNAV. And the compression of MNAV has unfortunately been a story for MSTR, and it's contributed to underperformance. But equally as important is the fact that we've greatly underperformed with Bitcoin. Bitcoin, since the 10-10 event, since the almost $20 billion liquidation in early October, since we had that big wipeout event in Bitcoin, Bitcoin simply has not recovered, and Bitcoin is going through its own valley of despair. Bitcoin sitting at 87, Bitcoin behaving like a stable coin. Compared to Christmas last year, we are 12% lower than Christmas last year on Bitcoin. And of course, recency bias lets us see that we're actually down more than 30%. We're down more than 30% compared to, two and a half months ago. We're down more than 30% on Bitcoin alone. And so, of course, strategy is going to be down minus 50% when Bitcoin is down so much. When Bitcoin is down so much, strategy is going to be down. So strategy struggling for two reasons. It's struggling because the MNAV has compressed, and it's struggling because Bitcoin is not doing well. And of course, it's amplified to the downside because we've had so many relentless fear, uncertainty, and doubt attacks on MSTR, and people who just refuse to understand that even at a 1.07x MNAV, you're still technically accretive, although I hope he doesn't do it too much at this level. You're still technically accretive. Issuing at this level, even though you don't create a yield, you still create a bigger stack of Bitcoin, which then you can use to write more preferreds and issue more preferred instruments. Saylor is playing the long game. The bigger of a Bitcoin bag, the hodl bag, the bigger the hodl bag he has, the more preferred is going to be able to issue once Bitcoin rallies again, and it inevitably will, in my view, once money printing starts again, once we get Kevin, Mr. Dove Hassett as the chair of the Fed. We saw today President of the United States saying that he wants a chair that only 100% agrees with him, and we know that POTUS wants interest rates to go towards zero. He wants interest rates down a lot right now, and so that's going to benefit Bitcoin quite a bit. Stretch, slowly stretching back to 100. I guess we're at 99. Come in 6 days now, we're going to have another increase in Stretch, another increase in the dividend, so it's going to move to 11%. And when we get that increase in the dividend, what's going to happen? mathematically, logically, the price of stretch should increase, should go up. And we know the demand for stretch is there whenever this instrument trades at 100. We just need optimism to come back in the market. Optimism is with Tesla, hence the Tesla ornament. Optimism is not with anything that has to do with deep innovation, with crypto, all of that sort of stuff. The market is bearish on that topic. Looking at a stock which, technically is not down. Technically at 23% compared to a year ago for HIMS, we're technically outperforming the Nasdaq and the S&P. I mean, over a longer period, HIMS, even though it has felt really, really bad owning HIMS for the past 2 months, we are technically still way up compared to last Christmas. So that's something to celebrate. But of course, HIMS was trading multiple times above $60 this year. We've crossed that $60 level so many times. I obviously believe that HIMS should be trading at well above $100 right now, given the fundamentals, given the fact that this stock is firing on all cylinders. It's growing like a weed. Given their Q3 really showed that the demand for the products was there, and the demand was crazy. Like, we all expected Q2 to Q3. We all expected a flat quarter between those two because of the drop of Ozempic, right? Because of Novo dropping HIMS. We didn't get that. We got a reacceleration after the drop. And so for some reason, this stock is down, and the reason is likely the shorts. There's a lot of shorts. Fundamental thesis, if you haven't seen my video where I do a deep dive on the fundamental of HIMS and how HIMS is slated to disrupt most of your mom-and-pop healthcare, most of your not a big issue type healthcare. I don't think HIMS is going to disrupt, placing a stent and cardiac surgery and cancer care. HIMS is not going after that at all. But I think all of the mom and pop stuff, all of the small issues that you can just cure via pills, I think HIMS is going to disrupt. HIMS is going after for the 80% of the profits part of the healthcare business. They're going after for the 80-20 rule. All of the expensive stuff, the complicated stuff, I think is still going to exist. But HIMS, in my view, is going to greatly outperform. This company looks more and more like a big tech company. You can watch my full thesis about HIMS in this video that I posted 3 days ago. But it's important to note that these stocks can't be shorted forever. And LifeMD, which I call baby HIMS, LifeMD, which I own, by the way, LifeMD rallied 19% in 5 days, and it's really 19% in 2 days. And we don't know why. Like, why did it go up so much all of a sudden? Probably some shorts gave up. I don't know what's going on. But HIMS, in my view, I wouldn't be surprised if HIMS did that at some point, just like LifeMD did. Hopefully before New Year's. If it did that before New Year's, that would be so wonderful. Because we may be faced into like year-end selling, tax loss harvesting. So hopefully HIMS bounces back. HIMS is too cheap. EV over GP over RG at a 0.1 is way too cheap. The stock achieves the rule of 40. Forward revenue growth, next 12-month growth of revenue is 47% predicted. I think that's perhaps too low. We're perhaps going to do more than that. Okay, moving on to other stocks, which I was so excited about these stocks. We were all so excited about these stocks in October. Before 10/10 and before that China tariff tweet, we were all excited about AI. The market was excited about AI. Things were going well. CleanSpark is important to know. It traded at $23, and that was 2 months ago. Well, unfortunately, we've been halved. We've gotten halved. The stock got halved. And nothing has changed fundamentally with CleanSpark stock. Nothing has changed. They've still said on the call they're working on a deal for their Sandersville facility. There's going to be either an hyperscaler or a neo startup, but there's going to be a deal at some point signed for AIHPC build-outs at their Sandersville facility, which is their facility next to Atlanta, which is ready to go. And so when that happens, expect a pop. I expect a pop when that happens. I think they're not going to call it a Santa deal. They're not. It seems like it's not going to be this year. Hence the title of this video. It's just delayed. The Santa rally just got delayed. It seems like it's not going to be this year. Maybe they're waiting for some strength in Bitcoin before they announce it. Maybe they're, I don't know, they're on vacation over there at the hyperscaler. I don't know what's going on. The point is, CleanSpark price action absolutely makes no sense, and the market doesn't know how to value this company. Two things to note about CleanSpark. First of all, if you go back a few years back, 2022, 2023, this stock was $2, right? And this stock stayed around $2 for a very long time. So you're still greatly outperforming. If you bought it during the valley of despair, which of course is the best moment to buy these stocks, and I would argue at $11 we are in sort of a valley of despair. So if you buy these stocks in the valley of despair, you've still been rewarded by a nice 5x in 3 years, so that's not that much. But then again, I'm very bullish on Bitcoin miners right now because look at the difficulty. The difficulty has been dropping nicely. This is the fourth drop. We've had fourth drop in general difficulty, and that Bitcoin difficulty, if Bitcoin price stays in the gutter, the Bitcoin difficulty should keep decreasing. And of course, these companies, when Bitcoin difficulty drops, they mine more Bitcoin. So that's bullish. The algorithm is working. The algorithm is working. These stocks are sold off. We're not getting a CleanSpark green candle this year, but make no mistake. In my view, at some point that will happen. That green candle will come. Nebius, let's talk about Nebius. Nebius was up like 1-ish% today. Didn't open very strong. Doesn't matter. The stock was 135. Now the stock is 91. It dropped to the high 70s not too long ago. The market, again, doesn't know how to value Nebius. I'm predicting anywhere between a 10x and 20x revenue growth over the next 12 months, which, using 1600, which is the analyst number, gives an enterprise value over gross profit over revenue growth of 0.046 and a ridiculous rule of 40. Of course, rule of 40, take that with a grain of salt. When you have 1600% growth, that rule of 40 number is not sustainable. But with 19% EBITDA margin, if this stock were to go at 50% year over year for the foreseeable future, which I think is more than plausible, then you'd get a rule of 40 into the 70s and the 80s. I talk a lot about Nebius. Nebius, I use enterprise value, of course, but what's important for Nebius is to back out the value of all of their investments. And of course, I talk about the 28% of ClickHouse, which they own. ClickHouse is a competitor of Databricks and Snowflakes. ClickHouse is going to have an IPO someday. ClickHouse is very valuable. AV Ride, if we see a Waymo IPO, I expect that AV Ride's value, if it were IPO'd, will also go up, because AV Ride is one of 10 players, right? One of the 10 self-driving players. So if we see a Waymo IPO, AV Ride could see enormous value, and they own AV Ride. Nebius owns AV Ride, and there's a few other startups that they own. I want to pay attention. So I don't know what's the stake they still have in Toloka, but I want to pay attention to another AI company that they own, which is Toloka. And when I read the article about welcoming Bezos Expeditions, so the VC arm of Jeff Bezos took the lead role in Toloka. So big tech kind of already took over one of their businesses, right? This is one way to look at it. Is big tech took over that part of the business. This is also why some people say that Nebius could be acquired by a big tech company, which would be a catastrophe for a holder of the stock, because I want to see it stay standalone. But you can see Bezos acquired Toloka, and from what I understand, Nebius probably owns between 40 and 50%, because they say they retain a significant ownership, so they gave their ownership, but maybe they still own 40% of Toloka. And what is Toloka? Very interesting, and we've seen some startups have crazy valuations in this sector. They're trading data for AI agents and LLMs, and so it's human-coded, high-quality expert data, and it's a platform. And we know some of these are very expensive, so I have no idea what's the value of Toloka, but in my view, it's very, very promising. The startups that Nebius owns are, big tech VC grade startups. And so the fact that Bezos bought this stuff, and the fact that they still own a 40% ownership, I find that quite interesting. And you can see how, Nebius is promoting, of course, its data centers and its hardware, and it's making deals with hyperscaler, but they're also promoting their software stack. Nebius has knowledge in software. This is something that, say, a CleanSpark doesn't necessarily have, right? IREN doesn't necessarily have that. There's going to be a difference in AIHPC. There's going to be a difference between those who presumably just rent bare metals and electricity, and we know CleanSpark plan is to have pre-made data centers, containerized, pre-made data centers, just set up and plug them in. So you're renting bare metal if you're looking at it as a CleanSpark, and that's what Bitcoin miners have been very, very good at it, right? Plugging in a Bitcoin miner is kind of like renting bare metal. And then you're going to have software stacks, companies with highly integrated software stacks. And so that's why you could see Nebius maybe 5 years from now, behave like a mini AWS with its own software stack and also its own data centers that it owns. And so that's why a lot of people say Nebius actually could be a target for acquisition. I like Nebius a lot. The more I study Nebius, the more I like Nebius right now. Slightly up today, but still down. So Christmas rally got delayed for Nebius as well. And lastly, there is a rally that started early, and that's the rally which, in my view, is going to lift all boats in 2026. In 2026, the money growth rally will lift all boats. And you can see the Fed gave up at reducing the money supply about a year and a half ago. The money supply is way back up. We never got back to the levels of the money supply we used to have pre-2020, and we're never going to go back to these lower levels of money supply. That money's been printed. It's done. It's over. It's forever circulating into the system. And we are going back at what I always claim to be growing the money supply by about 15% a year. That's the hurdle rate. That's the true inflation rate. And I think money supply is going to grow much more in 2026. This will be our gift in 2026, money supply growth. And sometimes I wonder if you could just, wouldn't it be nice if you could just buy the M2 chart and invest in the M2 chart and just buy the M2 chart? Unfortunately, you can't do that. It's only an inverse chart. The only way to have the M2 chart be reflected in your investment is to borrow money and buy something that's going to have a value of 1 of 1. And then the price sum of that value of 1 of 1 is going to trend up because you divide it by money supply. That's kind of the only way. But I wonder if with prediction markets, you could sometimes just bet on the money supply and bet on, I don't know, money supply in circulation or US debt, bet on US debt. That'd be very interesting if you could use prediction markets to bet on US debt or national debt of XYZ country. Anyways, poly market right now. Talking about rate cuts, it's positive to see that poly market has some faith in Powell. As you know on this channel, I have zero faith in Powell. I believe all of the rate cuts are coming after May 2026. But the market has some faith. 41% saying we may get another 25 basis point before even the arrival of Kevin Mr. Dove Asset as the head of the Fed. So that's pretty good, right? If we had another 25 basis point in March, that'd be wonderful. But if you look at the market is torn in 2026, saying we could have between 2 and 3 rate cuts. I, for one, believe lean more to a 4 or 5 rate cut. That's more what I lean on for 2025, not a 2 or a 3. So we'll see. But you can see 1 rate cut is of course in the bag. I think these odds are greatly going to change as we know the name of a Fed chair, and we will likely know this at this point in January. And of course, that was something we were hopeful to have. We were hopeful to have the name of a Fed chair before Christmas, to have a Christmas rally. We don't have it. I doubt we're going to have it in between the holidays. So that's why the title of this video, So Santa Rally Just Got Delayed. And so who knows? Maybe I'll be celebrating Christmas in July this year. Do you know they did that? Do you know they do that in the United States? They do Christmas in July. That's it's a joke, right? Of course, but it's anyways. Maybe I'll be celebrating Christmas in July this year. We'll see. For now, the portfolio is saved because of Tesla. But boy, didn't we need Tesla to save the portfolio? If you have a portfolio of high growth stocks without Tesla, not too good. And of course, don't go in the comment section and tell me, oh, the indexes are at all-time high. I am not an index investing channel. I don't talk about index investing on this channel. I only talk about stock picking. This is a stock picking channel, right? In the index investing, if you're an index investor, you're buying Costco at 47 times earnings. You're buying Walmart at 45 times earnings. You're buying Visa and MasterCard. You're buying JP Morgan, right? You're buying these behemoth companies who are in the crosshairs of disruption. So no, this channel is obviously not an index investing channel at all whatsoever. Index investor, you don't have exposure to Bitcoin, right? This channel is heavily exposed to Bitcoin. So anyways, This was not investment advice. This is not financial advice. This is only entertainment. I hope you were entertained. I hope you're having an entertaining evening on Christmas Eve. Merry Christmas in advance. And depending your part of the world, Merry Christmas if you're already there. Please like, please subscribe. Follow me on Patreon. Follow me on X. Thank you for watching and have a wonderful, wonderful day.